What's up guys, John Bird III here. We're back again for another video. And today's video, we got a little treat. We're gonna talk about the best reel for top water fishing. And so we're gonna jump right into it. And so that reel is the Team Lose HyperSpeed. So you see that Ferrari candy red on this reel. Anytime you see red on a sports car, super fast. So this reel right here has a super fast gear ratio. So it is a 9.5 to 1 gear ratio. So what does that mean? This reel brings in 40 inches of line per turn. So every full 360 of this entire handle right here, it brings in 40 inches of line per turn. And that is super fast. And that, to be honest, that is what you want for any time you're fishing top water lures. Now there's one particular top water lure that I do not recommend using this reel for, and we're going to talk about that later on. But just initially, just going right into it, one thing I like about this reel, y'all have seen this frame on some of the other reels like the Tournament Pro, the $99 Speed Spool. If you have a Gen 1 Pro TI or a Gen 1 Hyper Mag, y'all know this LFS frame, and y'all know that I love this frame because simply just how well it palms in the hand. And so that is one of the first things that I like about this reel. This reel right here, it does not have no internal pins that you need to adjust. So that keeps everything very, very simple. Y'all know that I like simplicity anytime we're talking about fishing. So that's another thing I like about it. So only things you got to dial in is you adjust how fast. You remember this? You just your gas pedal. So you want to adjust how fast your bait drops down. You adjust your external brakes, and you just get straight into the fishing. I mean, point blank, period. And so simplicity, like I always say, it's easy, and that helps you to be able to be more efficient on the water just by keeping things very, very simple. So the baits that I use for this reel, the number one bait that I use for this reel is a sexy dog. Why? So Lake Murray, you know, blueback herring, top water, schooling fish. So you need a reel that's fast, that you're able to make a long bomb cast, work your bait. Once it's out of the strike zone, you got to quickly be able to reel it in and fire it out there, because with those schooling fish, they come up so fast. They only come up for maybe 3-4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds at the most, and they going back down. So you got to be able to hurry up, get that line in. If you already got your bait out there, get it in, fire out that cast, and be able to get it to them so you can try to get fish in the boat. That's why this reel right here works the best with top water. And so the sexy dog, any type of walking style bait, you know, some of the old school guys like the Zero Spooks. So that's another great option. But again, I like the sexy dog because they also offer the hard knot version of that. And that hard knot version of the sexy dog has a very unique sound because it has a tungsten bead in there. So it gives one solid thud, but you would think that that thud is louder, but it's actually more subtle than the BBs that come in the standard version of the sexy dog. And so that's why I actually like the sexy dog hard knot or any of the hard knot baits in the Strike King lineup. So that is what I primarily use this reel for. Another couple options that this reel is great for is a buzz bait. So you fire out that buzz bait, you're able to keep that buzz bait up, and also think about any type of plopper style bait. So like the mock patroller, or you know, the old school whopper plopper. I mean, any type plopping style bait, I mean, it's gonna work great. Because sometimes when you're using some of the buzz baits or plopper style baits, you know, especially on the plopping style baits, sometimes you gotta keep it at a certain speed. So this faster gear ratio works really, really well in order to allow that bait to work at its optimal performance and to give off the best sound. Same thing with a buzz bait. And so you're able to, again, move that bait very, very quickly, place it where you needed to put it, move it very quickly, get the fish in the boat once they bite. And that is a great thing about this reel here. Now, I'm going to tell you what I do not recommend that you use this reel for, and I kind of tell you a little bit about my experience for it. So I do not recommend you use a frog for this reel, and I'm going to tell you why. Simply because the gear ratio. Now, you probably heard a lot of different people talking about how fast the gear ratios do not give you the torque that you need to get those fish out of heavy cover. And so that is very, very true. No matter what brand it is, when you get into those 9s and those 10-speed gear ratios, that is a real thing. You cannot get a fish out of heavy cover with those very, very high gear ratios. Point blank, period. I was fishing with a frog with this reel one day, and I was out on Santee. I was throwing the frog over the mat. Fish came out of the mat, grabbed it. I set the hook, and as I started like wrenching him out of there, the fish kept digging into that thick grass like that. It was hard to really try to crank on him. And so I switched my frog reel to a different reel, and we actually gonna talk about that in a different video. But that is why I don't recommend this reel for that. Now, if you're talking about open water frogging and the vegetation is submerged, but it's not super thick, you can get away with it. So like just straight up open water frogging, yes. If you're talking about matted up grass that's laying across the top of the water, I don't recommend this reel for that. Now, one thing I like about this reel right here. Now, normally on a lot of my reels, I put a little bit of backing on there so that I don't just waste a lot of fluorocarbon or braid. But I will say this reel right here, I did that one day and I made a bomb cast with a frog and I cast all the way down to the backing. And I had the reel spooled up as high as I can get it. And I made a very long cast and I literally cast it straight to the backing. So what I had to do is I had to go back, take the backing off. You can set this reel up to make a very long bomb cast and just about cast your line all the way down to your knot at the bottom end of the spool. And that's something there that I really like it. If you really dial this reel in, I promise you, you can make a very long cast, not blow your reel up, and you can literally take your thumb off the spool, make that long cast, and when that bait hits the water, you're not gonna have to worry about no backlash or nothing. And that is another thing that I like about this reel. I just dialed it in just right, and I mean it's perfect. And then again, like when we talk about those schooling fish, very long bomb cast, that's what you need. And then again, if you're doing open water frogging and the vegetation is not that thick and it's submergent, you're fine with this reel. But the moment you go with grass that is laid over the top and it's more so matted, don't do that because you're not going to be able to get that fish up out of there. You can have the beefiest rod all you want to, but again, you still going to have to reel in that slack. And so I will say this. Now, if you're doing some type of bottom contact fishing, like as it's about to get hotter and those fish maybe get offshore, and if you have some very deep like brush piles and you like throwing a big worm, this is a great option too. Because again, like I said, you're making those long casts, and then once you see maybe you feel that bite, and then that fish maybe start running or whatever, you're able to take up a lot of line. Or if that fish is swimming directly at you, and like with some reels you feel like you cannot catch up with them, well with this here, you gonna catch up with them super fast. And so it's like when that fish run at you, it's like a Honda being chased down by a Ferrari. And that's the best way I can put it. But that's why I like this reel. So anytime you're having to take up a lot of slack very fast, that's another great option as well. But again, like when we're talking about wrenching fish out of heavy cover, you probably want to go with a different gear ratio. Like I said, a 7.5 to 1 is a great all-around option, and an 8.3 is just fine. But when you start getting into those 9s and 10s, you lose out on some of that torque. And that's just something, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just something that I want you to understand when you're looking at reels like the HyperSpeed that has the higher gear ratios. And so in my opinion, and I've said this in a previous video, this reel is a specialty reel, and that is why I recommend it for top water walking baits, buzz baits, patrollers, anything like that. I think this reel right here, that is where it will work the best in my opinion. Or if you're dragging something on the bottom and you're not snatching them out of any heavy cover, this reel will work well just fine, personally. So if you have been considering trying to find the best top water reel for your walking baits, again, your buzz baits, your patrollers, your plopper style baits, go with the HyperSpeed. I promise you, you will be very satisfied if you grab this reel. But just, again, keep in mind why you buy this reel. This is a specialty reel, point blank period. I'll tell you another quick little tip real quick. So Mark Menendez uses this reel for throwing a red-eye shad. And so that's another little sneaky little deal also. So if you're having to burn a red-eye shad, that's another great option. Or again, like when you're on these blueback herring lakes and you're throwing like a caffeine shad, now listen now, you can throw this up there, burn it. And so it's great for that. So anytime you're having to burn a bait, this is great too. So that's it for today's video. So get your hands on one of these and use it for your top water walking baits, your patrollers, your plopper style baits, buzz baits. I promise you, this reel right here is awesome. And this is where this reel sits. It is a specialty reel, so keep that in mind if you're looking at it. And plus, I mean, just look at the paint job. If you can't afford a Ferrari, I don't know nobody that can. This is the closest you're gonna get to it, so make sure you go pick up a HyperSpeed. If you like this video, hit the like button. Share this with somebody trying to find the best top water reel on the market. I got to get back to living the dream. I'm JB3. I'll catch you later.